But still, I mean, it does beg the question, why and why now? He is facing potential lawsuits, huge financial fines, possibly even jail time. Today's Money Power panel is here to explain every angle. Peter Shankman is a marketing consultant. Pate is a criminal defense attorney, and Jim Gray is a sportscaster and a Fox News contributor. Thanks to all of you for joining us. Paige, I want to start with you. Jail time? I mean, how serious could his trouble be here?
Well, it could be very serious. I mean, there was initially a criminal investigation that, while it didn't clear him, they closed the investigation without bringing any charges. But if they can show that he made a false statement in connection with his dealings with the Postal Service, they could bring that investigation back, and criminal charges could certainly be a possibility.
Wow, Peter, you're shaking your head.
I mean, this blows my mind. I ran a PR firm, and you tell your clients, get in front of it. Get in front of the story, admit it, and move on. But you don't admit it after 7 years of constant denial. A month ago, he was stripped of all his titles, and he closed the subject was closed. We thought, okay, he's a cheater, but he's letting it go. Who in their right mind would come back a month later and say, okay, you know what? After all that,
I did. Who would?
This
Why?
had to be this was an overzealous PR team that said, well, you really should get in front of it and then write a book. For what reason? The guy's worth $125 million. He has no reason to do this. I was floored that he went on Oprah to do this.
Jim Gray, what do you think? I mean, there's got to be some upside, although we're all really scratching our heads here. What could it be?
Well, if there's an upside, it just remains to be seen. I don't see any upside in this. Other than the fact that he's lost his entire life. He's lost any reputation, any shred that he might have had of it left was totally taken from him when he was stripped of the titles, and USADA came out and banned him for life. So if there is an upside, and I don't know what it would be, I guess he could probably look to maybe President Nixon or President Clinton, who's had a great public life after the problems that they had, particularly President Clinton, what he's gone on to do. So maybe he's just hoping for that.
Well,
but I can't see it.
I mean, that's an interesting point to bring up. And Peter, let me ask you, or I'll ask the whole panel. I mean, because the problem here is that he admitted he was a fraud at the very thing he was most famous for. I mean, everyone loved him because he seemed to be superhuman. He beat cancer. He was a super athlete. He was doing things with his body that people thought were impossible. And it turns out we were right. It wasn't possible. So what is there to salvage from there? Go ahead.
I mean, if you look at it from another perspective, had he just walked away and had he never done this, he could have still done the lecture circuit. He still could have done the college tours.
Really?
Yeah, because again, he had never admitted it. He could have said, yes, I stepped down to save Live Strong Foundation from ever having to go through any more of this, and he would have been looked at as somewhat of a hero for walking away. Now there's nothing he'll ever get. He was stripped of his titles, but he's like, I still won, I still biked, I never did anything. Had he stayed the course, he might not have been making the money he could have made had this never happened, but he still would have been viable. He's not viable anymore.
I mean, not only not viable, but Paige, I mean, he is facing a lot of lawsuits. There's the federal whistleblower lawsuit that was brought by his former teammate, that's Floyd Landis. That accuses him of defrauding the Postal Service, who sponsored him for more than $30 million. But the potential legal bills really go on from there. I mean, he's worth more than $100 million. Some say $150 million. Could he lose all of that?
He could certainly lose close to $100 million, but that's why I think he's doing this now. We know that his lawyers have been in talks with the Department of Justice about this whistleblower lawsuit. It is definitely possible that they are trying to negotiate a settlement. If you're going to settle with the Justice Department and you want to do it cheaply, you're going to need to admit your conduct, be contrite, and accept responsibility. So this could be part of a negotiated resolution of the whistleblower lawsuit with the Justice Department.
I'm not a lawyer. Why does that help you do it more cheaply? If you come out in Oprah and you say what you did, why does that contain costs?
The potential loss on this whistleblower lawsuit could be at least $100 million. But generally, the Justice Department doesn't take a lawsuit like this all the way to trial. They try to settle the case up front. So his lawyers, Department of Justice lawyers, they can sit down and say, look, you owe us $100 million, but we're willing to let it go for less than that if you do these things. Come clean, help Live Strong, get back to where it needs to be, and accept responsibility for what you did. So I think that is why he's doing it right now.
Jim, as somebody who has followed this sport for so long, is there anything he could do to rebuild his reputation? If he came out now, is there a sports career out there for him or a sports following for him?
I don't see it, but we've seen certainly many, many others who have put themselves in very vulnerable and bad positions and done things that are so unbecoming and untoward. Here's the problem that I see going forward. He has destroyed so many lives, and he has been so vehement in his denials, and He has sued people to save his reputation while destroying others. So now all of the great work that he's done with Livestrong and all of the people who he's helped with cancer, if you're going forward with that organization, I would think just because of the worldwide denials and lies and everything that he has put everybody through, how could anybody really, when they sit back and think in good conscience, am I going to turn over my money? Am I going to turn over my efforts for research to a man who was able to perpetuate this fraud against the world? I think it's very, very difficult. I mean, in sports, we've seen Barry Bonds and we've seen O.J. Simpson and we've seen a lot of people, Mark McGwire, Tiger Woods, who've destroyed their reputations. And some of them have been able to come back and live good lives and do good things going forward, and others have faded away. Nobody has done, nobody that I can think of, other than the double murders that O.J. Simpson was involved with, eventually acquitted, but then the civil cert turned that over. I can't think of anybody who's had a fall. Pete Rose, you can just go through the names. Nothing like this.
Jim, wow. On that note, let's leave it there. Panel, thank you so much. So here's our